and welcome to another episode of Teacher's Corner. I'm Teacher Kirby, and before we get started, please remember if you like what you see, click that like and subscribe button. Consider clicking the join button, and if you want to be notified when I make a new video, don't forget to ring that bell. If you'd like to support Teacher's Corner in another way, please consider becoming a patron. The link for that is in the top right hand corner of this video. And without any further ado, so this episode we're going to be talking about the new Romulus reputation. This first appeared in the game when New Romulus first came in. It is one of the older reputations, and so it actually does not have, it's one of the two that does not have an elite mark. All you get for this reputation, or all you need to buy anything from this reputation, is just straight up Romulan marks. There is no other kind of mark, so there's no like Borg neural processor equivalent or anything like that, this is one of two of the only reputations that does not have an elite mark. Okay, so New Romulus is, see, here we go, delving in. So we have 6 tiers, as with all reputations. So when you complete tier 1, you get 2 captain traits. These are for ground. One is called lethality. The other is enhanced personal shields. I should note lethality is actually a pretty good trait, and it is considered, if you're doing ground DPS, it is considered one of the must-haves because it gives quite a lot for a trait of critical hit chance, and that is 4%. So it is one of the ones that you should consider using if you're trying to boost your ground DPS. Alright, and the other one is enhanced personal shields, and this gives a 10% maximum shield capacity. Alright, and let's see, and you also unlock the trend warp to the Tau Dewa sector block. You unlock Mark 12 Romulan plasma pistols in the store, and you then have the ability to get the 0-point energy conduit, which we'll be talking about later, the Romulan reinforcements for ground, that is consumable, and the Riemann reinforcements for ground. Alright, on tier 2 you have precision as one of the 2 space traits, and enhanced shield systems. And precision is the space version of lethality. It is 4% critical hit chance, and this is, of course, before you get to tier 6. We'll talk about that in a bit. It is definitely considered one of the must-have traits if you're going for DPS. It's quite a lot of crit chance in one shot, so definitely look at putting that if you're trying to improve your DPS. And then we have, of course, enhanced shield systems, which, same as the ground trait, gives you plus 10% maximum shield capacity. Alright, and for new unlocks we get a very rare Mark 12 Romulan plasma rifles from the store, and we get the Riemann advanced prototype deflector dish, as well as, and then the Romulan advanced prototype deflector dish. We also get projectile weapon, Romulan hyperplasma torpedo launcher, and the consumable Romulan distress call 1. When you get to tier 3, you get ground abilities, reactive shielding, trigger a shield heal when critically hit, and disabling strikes, knock down your target on critical hit. Okay, these are relatively unremarkable. It does depend on what you're going for, but usually abilities that rely on you being critically hit aren't considered to be all that great. So there you go. Completing this project gives you Tier 3 passive abilities, obviously. The store unlock, very rare purple Mark 12 Romulan plasma assault weapons, and of course a bunch of new gear. And we're going to stop reading all that off because we can find that out later. For our traits, when you hit Tier 4, you get the space trait versions. You get emergency secondary shielding, which of course triggers a shield heal when critically hit, and sensor targeting assault, weapons offline to target on critical hit. Again, these rely on you being critically hit, which NPCs have such a low crit chance, it's really difficult to get these to trigger, which is why they're not all that popular. Alright, and then moving right along, when you hit Tier 5, you get the Captain trait Quantum Singularity Manipulation. Now, this is actually quite an interesting little thing here. So, what this does is this gives you plus 100 to your science stats, and that's all of your science stats. Okay? That's your shields, that's your control expertise, that's your exotic particle generators, that's anything that comes under science. And that's quite a few things. These are boosted by 100, okay, for 8 seconds. Okay? After a few seconds, your ship will also cloak for the remaining duration of the power. You can fire your weapons while you're cloaked and use abilities normally without breaking the cloak. And it does not bring your shields offline. But that, neither here nor there. What you're looking at is the plus 8 or plus 100 to your science stats for 8 seconds. This is especially good for captains that are using science, that are science boats, that are using gravity well, that are using subspace vortex, destabilizing resonance beam, things like that, that are relying on their science abilities because, boom, you just got another plus 100. So you pop this right before you want to do your absolute best gravity well and subspace vortex combination, and it just melts everything. Okay? So this is actually really good. It's also really good when paired with another Tier 5 ability from the Temporal Defense reputation called Anti-Time Singularity. And that you pop this, you activate this right before you activate the Anti-Time Entanglement. And because the Anti-Time Entanglement is based on the damage from it is based on your exotic particle generators, it really boosts the damage that you get out of that. Okay, so very good ability to have with you and to use no matter what. This should be one of your active space reputation abilities that you have for there. Alright, and then Tier 6, of course, as always, you have the rank 2 of all of these abilities. So your critical chance ones get boosted to 5% critical chance instead of the 4 they originally were, etc., etc., etc. Okay, and your quantum singularity manipulation now boosts your science skills to plus 125 instead of plus 100. So, very good thing to have. Alright, now let's talk about the gear. So this reputation actually only has 2 pieces of ground gear, which is quite interesting. So you have the Romulan Disruptor Flamethrower. Now this normally, unless you have unlocked the Agents of Yesterday, everything coming out at Mark 13 Ultra Rare, which there are a lot of people that haven't, so I'm on an account that doesn't have that unlocked. So this will come out at, normally by default will come out as Mark 12 Very Rare. It'll come out as damage times 3. This is not a part of a set, but it does have a Flame Jet and Flame Incinerate as the secondary attack. And basically it does disruptor damage, or what's considered to be disruptor damage, and it is quite an interesting thing to use. And if that's your bag, if you want to test it out, it will cost you, how much will it cost you? 40,000 energy credits, 18,000 dilithium, and 60 Romulan marks. Alright, and then we also have the Romulan Plasma Flamethrower, which, same thing, except it does plasma damage. Okay? So, and again, 60 ROM marks, 18,000 DIL, and 40,000 energy credits. Now let's get into the space equipment. So, space equipment does have a couple sets. So first we have the Romulan Singularity Harness. So this includes the Experimental Romulan Beam Array, the Romulan Hyperplasma Torpedo Launcher, and the Zero Point Energy Conduit. Now the Zero Point Energy Conduit gives a very small amount of power to all subsystems. As it comes out, it gives plus 1.8, which is not a whole lot, but it is at least something. It also gives a small amount to Drain Expertise, and it gives a small amount, 1.8, to Critical Chance. It does not boost Critical Severity. Now there are a lot of consoles that boost both, but this is one that only boosts Critical Chance. Okay? And then you have the Experimental Romulan Disruptor Beam Array, and actually usually it's the Plasma Beam Array. Okay, this is the default, is the Plasma Beam Array, because it has both the Plasma proc and the Disruptor proc. So what does that mean? That means that it gives, the Plasma proc is the 2.5% chance to give 25.9% or 25.9 plasma damage per second for 15 seconds. So that's the plasma burn that you always hear about. The Disruptor proc is the 2.5% chance minus 10 all damage resistance for 15 seconds. So the Experimental Plasma Beam, which is the original beam with this reputation, has both those procs. When you get to tier 6, you unlock the secondary, the second energy type, which is Disruptor, and it also has both procs. So it has the Disruptor proc, which a Disruptor normally has, that's the minus 10 all damage resistance, and it has the Plasma Burn proc, which is the plasma damage per second for 15 seconds. Okay? Alright. And then we have the Hyperplasma Torpedo Launcher. And this does creates 3 level 60 plasma torpedoes that does a number of kinetic damage. And yeah, so now the thing to also consider when you're considering this set is, of course, the set bonuses. Now, the set bonuses are, there we go. So for 2 pieces of the set, you get plasma conductive circuitry. So that has 10% disruptor energy weapon damage, plus 10% plasma energy weapon damage, and plus 20 Starship EPS or electroplasma system flow. And that will improve your power transfer rate. Okay? A little bit of disruptor energy damage, a little bit of plasma energy weapon damage. Nothing to really write home about, but it's, if you're using disruptor or plasma energy weapons, you might want to consider it. Alright, and then we have the plasma hyperflow for set 3. This is a clickable ability, has a 2-minute recharge, and this enables a special firing mode on your experimental Romulan beam array only. Okay? And this special mode is called Hull Melt. Okay? And what this does is it gives negative 30 all damage resistance for 10 seconds. And it gives plasma damage per second for 10 seconds, ignores shields, and will always critically hit. Okay? It does give an increase to plasma or disruptor damage depending on which beam you have, but it always critically hits, which it could be debatable depending on what it is you're trying to do, whether this is worth the 3-piece set, but definitely definitely something to consider. Alright, now let's talk about the other space sets, the Deflector, engines, and shield sets. There are 2 different ones in this reputation. There's the Romulan Space Set, and then there's the Romulan Space Set. So you'll see Romulan, Romulan, and Romulan. So there are 2. Now, here's the thing. They are virtually, there's not that much of a difference between them, and I'm going to go over what the differences are here. Alright, so here are the differences. So we have the Romulan set, the Deflector, will give you plus 30 to stealth values as a difference, whereas the Romulan gives plus 15 to stealth values and plus 2% to Starship stealth detection. The engines will give, the Romulan gives 26.2%, 26.2 to defensive maneuvering in the skill tree, whereas the Romulan gives a 26.2 boost to weapon amplification, and it should be noted that increases your critical chance. Okay? Then for the shield, the Romulan shield reduces disruptor damage to shields by 20%. That's disruptor damage. Whereas the Romulan reduces phaser damage to shields by 20%. those are literally the only differences between the two. They're minor. All other stats are identical. Okay? So that being said, let's look at the other stats. So, the other stats are 56.9 control expertise and 39.4 drain expertise. Okay? So, something to consider if you're looking at doing a science build. Okay, and let's see if I can stay hovered over here. Alright, the other identical stats, we know the weapon amplification, or I'm sorry, it's crit severity. My mistake there, I misspoke earlier and said it was crit chance, it is crit severity. Alright, and then you also get plus 15 flight speed, plus 9.8 flight turn rate, plus 16.5 full impulse flight speed, plus 16.5 full impulse flight speed, interesting, and 25 shield regeneration per second to each facing while at full impulse. Okay, and those are identical to the Romulan set. And then of course we have the shield, and the shield has a shield capacity that's going to be affected by your stats, so it's going to be different for everybody, but it is going to have a 10% bleed through. It is going to have a 236.1 shield regeneration every 6 seconds, and let's see, it does have a 10% chance when hit by directed energy weapons to gain plus 5% maximum shield capacity for 30 seconds. And that stacks up to 10 times. Now, of course, we have set powers. Okay, so our set powers, 2-piece set, gives prototype plasma projectile. So this gives a passive of 17.5 Starship Exotic Particle Generator, that's EPG, which, hold your goat, that's not such a great thing. There are others that are much better boosts, but if you don't have access to any of those, then it's okay. Enhances your high yield plasma torpedo by giving it increased flight speed and increased defense. The 3-set bonus gives a clickable capacitance transfer. Okay, words are hard. Now this has a 3-minute recharge, and it reduces damage to your shields by 25.5% for 15 seconds. It enhances all energy weapons to do the following for 15 seconds, and it takes away from your foe minus 51 shields and gives to you plus 51 shields. And that, of course, can be affected by drain expertise. Okay? Alrighty, and that applies to both the Romulan and Romulan sets. So it doesn't matter which set you are using, they are both the same set powers. Alrighty. And then we have Romulan set, okay. So then we have the Scorpion Hangar Pet, ultra rare. These have been for a long while, considered to be one of the best hangar pets out there. One moment. So they've been considered to be one of the best pets out there. Each one has a plasma turret, dual phase cannons, plasma torpedoes, and high yield torpedo 1. Launches a wing of 3 level 66 elite Scorpion fighters. Each hangar supports 2 deployed wings at any given time. So that means if you have 2 hangar pets, you can have 12 of these out flying around, and you can very quickly, because they have a 40-second recharge, you can keep them up quite a bit. Alright, and then we have, and I believe this is one of the only reputations to have this, I believe it's the only one, you have consumable assistants. So this is kind of like you can call in extra NPCs to help you out. Okay. This one is the Diplomatic Entourage. This is non-combat. Okay, but it is a consumable. And then we have tier 5 Entourage. Then we have, here they are. These are the guards. These are combat pets. These are combat. So they will come in and they will fight with you. So we have a tier 1 Reman Reinforcements Guard Elites. And these are, as I said, consumables. They only cost 10 Romulan marks, 1250 dilithium, and 2,500 energy credits. Okay, so there's different levels. We have tier 1. Here we have the Shadow Guards. This is unlocked at tier 3. And you can have 2 Shadow Guards. They're sturdier and do more damage than the Guard Elites. Okay. And then we have, of course, Shadow Guard Elites. This unlocks at tier 5, and they cost a little more. Do they? No, a little bit more. They cost more dilithium and more energy credits. And you get 2 Shadow Guard Elites for 60 seconds. And then you also have the Romulan security team. We have, of course, tier 1. Support team at tier 5. And at tier 3 is the strike team. And again, 60 seconds. These are consumable. So once you use one, it disappears. And then we have the Romulan distress call. There's different levels of that as well. The lowest level is the Bird of Prey. Warps in and assists for 60 seconds. You have the Mogai Escort. That's the tier 4 unlock. And then you have the Dideridex Battleship. And again, these are consumable. The Dideridex, for example, costs 10 Romulan marks, 2,000 dilithium, and 40,000 energy credits. You can get as many of these as you want, but when you use one, that's it, it goes away. You have to make a new one if you want to keep going. Okay. But yeah, this is, I believe this is the only reputation that has these consumable things like this. So, there you go. That is the Romulan reputation. Remember, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat below. And this is Teacher Kirby. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time.